so simple, if decisions are so simple, then why do so many of them stall? Why do so many of our emails go unanswered? Why do meetings end with the dreaded, let's circle back on that one? How many times that happened to you? Give me, raise your hands. Everybody have that? Let's circle back, right? So, silence is what really slows us all down. So let me ask you this, put it in the chat. What does silence usually mean on your projects? If somebody's not responding back to you, what does that usually mean on your projects that you're running? Put that in the chat. Get the little chat going here. Welcome. Thank you, Tracy. Excited. They're too busy, lack of communication. That's right. Thank you for that, Missy. Rebecca, not a priority for them. Yep. Not wanting to own the decision. That's huge. We're going to talk a lot about that because we love to talk about decisions. We love making decisions. We're making one right now. You made a decision to put something in the chat, right? So here's the truth that a lot of people, really miss is that it's not really that silence is this communication problem. It's a decision-making problem. That's what it is. A lot of us are just like, what do we do? So today I'm going to show you why people hesitate, why smart leaders actually freeze when they're under pressure, right? We call this influence under fire. Why do we freeze when we're under pressure? And how do we turn that into confident action? How do we learn and understand? Now, there's something about this, so everybody knows. Once we learn this stuff, this isn't like we're going to walk away with the magic pill and all of a sudden all the decisions in the world are going to be ours for the, everybody's going to make the right decision. It's going to be, I'm going to give you a really cool framework that you can use. And you got to put in the reps, put in some work, and you start doing the internal work to get the external work, right? So we're going to really unpack, what really drives decisions and what traps leaders fall into and that they realize, like, what are these traps? And how can you start shaping decisions instead of waiting on them? How many of you wait for decisions, right? How many of you wait? How many of you are not making an important decision right now? Put a 1 in the chat if you're not making an important decision right now that you should be. I know. Yep. Tracy's got one. Me too. I'm going to join you because there's lots of decisions out there. All right. So we're going to really get into this, and just a little bit about me. Now, she really, Missy really covered it, but, I've worked on some of our nation's most critical defense and nuclear projects. And my whole goal was leading these high performing teams. And what we found the most was people have a hard time making decisions. Go figure, right? So it was like, how do we actually read between the silence? And so for over 2 decades, I'm now working at training people and global leaders and executives, like, how do we make more decisions faster so we can pull the world forward faster on those mission critical projects? Everything we do is about project management. And we got to make sure that we understand the standard. We got the PMBOK, right? PMBOK 8 just came out. How many of you are excited about PMBOK 8? Just came out. Get an eye. Let's do this. That was so powerful because now we've got this great standard that says, here are all the things, 10,122 things that you need to do, but it's up to you to tailor it, the main message of it. How do you actually take what is useful, discard what is useless, and make the essence your own? And that's a big deal, which means you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision. So we're just getting ramped up here. So how to get the most out of this masterclass. There's really 3 ways that you can get the most out of this to make sure that you can take this stuff and do something with it. Because that's what I want us to do more than anything. That's what I've spent my career doing, is figuring out how to get people to take appropriate action to make those mission critical decisions, especially when they matter. And this works in your life. This works in your career. This works in your business. This works in any single thing that you're doing. All right. So just remember this. Okay. The first 10%, where do you think the first 10% out of 100%, right? What are the 3 ways that you can get the most out of this masterclass? 10% is what? What do you think it is? Put it in the chat. What do you think 10% of learning is going to be to really walk away with this? I'm looking. All right. Decision making. Yeah. Listening. Exactly. Marilyn, you nailed it. Listening, from hearing it. 10% is just hearing it. We hear stuff all day long, but how many times do you hear something and don't do anything with it? 20% comes from writing it down, everybody, right? So I want you to remember this. What you write, you invite. What you write, you invite. So start writing a lot more if you're not already. And whatever medium you're using, when you hear a distinction, write it down, ingrain it. That's the first part. You're going to hear it, You're going to write it and bite it. The next thing, 70%, lots of research behind this, everybody, comes from doing it. You got to do something with it. So I'm going to give you some quick framework, some good frameworks. Now, we're not going to be able to go in as much depth as I'd like to. Usually I'd like to do about 2 hours where we really just run this down and ingrain it. So we got an hour. We got 60 minutes to really run through this. So I'm going to give you some really good tips. And at the end, I'm going to give you, if you're all okay with this, I'm going to give you a link where you can go on and just leave a little comment about what you thought of this presentation. You can download the actual tools that we're going to be talking about in here as well. So then you can actually go back and refer to this as you start implementing. Does that sound good, everyone? Sound good? Thumbs up? Woo! All right. All right. So that's it. Just remember that. Think it, type it, do it. That's the rule today. Think it, type it, do it. Remember, what I write, we invite. All right. So, a lot of the times, a lot of us get, we show up in our projects and, we realize that, a lot of the communication that's happening is it's just misinformed, right? And we're always chasing answers. We're tired of approvals that should take hours, but take weeks. Does that ever happen to anybody? It's like, man, we could have made that. If we just got in a room with each other or on a Zoom call, we could have figured this out 3 weeks later. We lost time, we lost scope, we lost budget, right? Look at that. We lost a lot of things. Months sometimes, Tracy. Months, right? So a lot of what we're doing here is we really want to make sure that we know what's going on behind the stakeholders. Why is their silence true? What's going on? Because really what we're losing is time, trust, and credibility. Time, trust, and credibility. And the reality really is here, every one of us has been there. You've all been there. I can see heads bobbing up and down, right? We send our updates, we get our requests, our recommendations, and then we wait for someone to respond. We just kind of cruise back, we're waiting. Then we do a follow-up. It's like a boomerang. I call it the boomerang email, right? You throw it out there and you wait for it to come back, but sometimes it never comes back. It goes into the black hole, the abyss, the void. When I was working in aerospace, I worked with so many types of different peoples, right? Every one of them made decisions differently. All wanted different information. This person wanted this info. That person wanted that. Everybody wanted something different to make a decision. And here's the thing. We were working on projects that were 300 people to save 300 million. No pressure. Think about that. 300 people to save 300 million. We're building things for the national defense, but we can't make a decision. Pretty hard, right? So, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. And the thing about it was that it wasn't a communication problem. Every time we came back that we were trying to talk, it was people were having a hard time making decisions because we didn't anchor it to the things that mattered most. And here's what I want you to remember, one of the biggest takeaways right now. And if you're writing notes, and I know we are, because what we write, we invite, you write this one down. If you don't possess it, you can't give it. If you don't possess clarity, you can't give clarity. If you don't possess certainty, you can't create certainty in others. That makes sense, everyone? Make sense? So if we're not great at communication, we can't create it. That's so important. So if we're not good ourselves at communication, we can't really create it. And that's what today's about. How to really communicate with the kind of clarity that drives real decisions and brings people out of the silence, because that's really what it's all about here. So we're going to focus on the 4 forces that block decision making and create indecision, which is still a decision. I know I probably said decisions 10,000 times already, and there's 10,000 more coming. They're coming. We're going to expose decision traps, everybody. I want us to understand, the decision traps as well. We're going to uncover our decision-making styles. How many of you here know your actual decision-making style? Put a 1 in the chat if you know your decision-making style. And then tell me what it is. Tell me what your decision-making style is. Quick. Jerry's like, 1, I know it. It's quick. I made a decision. It's happening right now. Does anybody else? Anybody else know their decision? All right. So, again, our motto and the last thing, just really quick, we're going to do is a decision confidence matrix. Decision confidence matrix. It's going to be cool. So I'll give you a little tool there that you can start working through. But the trick is there's going to be a lot of self-awareness, because if you don't possess it, you can't give it. And that's our motto today. That's our motto today. And I hope you take that with you. When you're thinking about something like, why didn't this happen? Ask yourself a little bit of self-awareness. All change starts with honest self-assessment. All right. So who's in it to win it? Y'all ready? Ready to rock it before I turn on these slides and everybody goes, oh my God, there's bullets. All right, here we go. All right. Before I do that, I'm going to tell you one model. How many of you got a piece of paper? You guys got a piece of paper and a pencil, something to draw on? All right, let's see how my communication skills are. So I want you to draw a pyramid. I want you to draw a pyramid right now. All right. And I want you to make 6 sections of the pyramid. All right. Now, I want you to think about this. Every message that we send, every meeting we lead, every decision that we make comes through these layers. These layers. And we're going to really be unpacking this today. And these are called the logical levels of communication. So how many of you have got your pyramid with your 6 layers? You got them? Okay. All right. So now at the base, I want you to write environment. At the base, number 1 is your environment. Now, these are the conditions you're working in. These are the systems, the politics, the tools. All right. Next, above that, I want you to write your behaviors. Your behaviors. Now, this is how you respond in that environment. These are your habits. These are your values in action. All right, so we got environment. We've got behaviors. Then I want you to write capability. I want you to write capability. Skills. Capability/skills. Everybody got that? All right. So now these are the tools and the skills you need to get your message across. This is really important. Next, see, is everybody got somebody on mute? Got some noise coming through. Okay. Can everybody? Oh, there we go. Oh. We have somebody that needs to mute. They're making a lot of noise. Who's the noisy one?
I took care of it.
Okay.
All right, muted them.
Run through it real quick again. Environment. Real quick, Jeremy.
Environment, behaviors, capability, and skills.
There we go. Capability and skills are in one level. Okay, they're in one level. Capability and skills. Now, the next one above that, beliefs. This is what you believe about communication. This is what you believe about the people and the influence in the organization and the business and how you make communication. Above that, identity. I want you to put your identity there. Your identity. This is, I am a great communicator. However you identify is how you communicate. And above that last one, that's your purpose. That's your purpose. The big reason why we communicate at all. Now, let me know when you're all done. And then who wants to show me their work? Who wants to show their work? Let's see how we did. Somebody show the camera if you can. Let's see who's got one. I'm looking. Okay, we got a little pyramid. All right. The cool thing about that pyramid, everybody, I want you to remember this. This is technically called the logical levels of change. I use this for everything. Do yourself a favor, Google this, look into it. This is how you transform organizations. This is how you transform your communication. This is how you transform your life in anything that you want to do. This is how you transform your team. The logical levels of change, because the one thing that's constant is change. So as we go through this, I'm using this for communication because we have a purpose in how we communicate and why we're doing what we're doing. And why we do that, it goes through these filters. And we're going to go deeper. All right, has everybody got that? Okay. So the environment, the forces, decision styles, and confidence matrix, that's what we're rolling into right now. And if all this makes sense, we're going to move on. Is everybody ready to rock? We're already rocking. All right, here we go. I gotta share now. Hold on. Let me figure this one out. Am I able to share? I am. Boom.
Real quick, while you're sharing, I forgot to introduce Travis as another board member. So Travis Harker, who's the one driving and sparing us from the view of the road with his video, is our Vice President of Publication and Publicity and Communication. So sorry about that, Travis. Okay, back to you, Jeremiah.
Are you muted?
I was just gonna say, was I the only one that lost audio?
I don't hear anybody besides you, Missy.
Okay, Jeremiah, we lost you.
We can see you.
He shows muted. There it goes.
Still can't hear you, no.
He's trying. Not yet.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead and reshare.
Nope. Now it
Please.
says you're muted.
Huh. Wonder why.
Now you're.
In
I'm showing it to work. Is it still muted?
no, I
Did
hear
somebody
you.
mute me on
Now
your
we
end?
hear you.
No, I hear you.
Now we
It's fine
can't
on my
see
end.
you.
I'm not sure.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, just maybe. It's funny when you shared, you went to mute. It showed you were muted.
See if you can hear that. Can you hear me there?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, now we can't hear you.
That's weird.
Okay. Check one. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, the minute he shares, he's muted.
Gone.
No. As soon
Yeah.
as you finished check one, we couldn't hear you again. Now we can. Now we can't. It's like going on and off mute. Something's. You're not even touching it.
It doesn't show the
Do you
mute
think
though.
it's
It doesn't show the
trying-
mute icon, which means probably something with the microphone.
Yeah, the
No,
microphone's on.
I'm seeing the mute icon go on
Yeah.
and off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I am too.
Speaker microphone. It's all dialed in.
Yeah, we can hear you now. I wonder if it's in your like audio settings or when you go to share, if you check the settings in Teams, or is it the mic to your computer?
Is it someone, Jerry or Travis? It's not something that the admin could be doing, right?
Check one.
No.
We
Still
can hear
hear me?
you. Check one, check two, check.
Okay, so if I share, I'm going to share again. Let's see if it works.
Just share if you can. Just go ahead and share. Then if you're muted, just unmute. See what happens.
Okay, here
We
go.
lost you. Huh? No,
No.
you're back.
Yeah, I thought he was there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you
We're
see my
good.
slide?
Okay.
Yeah, hey, we're good.
See, look at that communication. We did it. All right.
Woohoo.
Okay.
It's capabilities and skills.
Yeah, we got
Just
this.
saying.
Capabilities and skills. All right. So thank you all. We're back. All right. So we're going to walk through the 4 forces of indecision. And this is really, really important because whether you're an executive or a project leader, we always don't get the luxury of perfect information. We make judgment calls a lot in the dark, right? In the fog, I like to call it. Things are kind of foggy. And that's just the reality we cannot wait for. We just can't wait for perfect information if we really want to drive effectiveness and keep people moving. Bad news doesn't get better with time. We've got to make decisions now. So every call really affects your people, your projects, and your credibility. It reflects on you. And that's kind of the thing that we're always bouncing against ourselves when we're doing this. When we're making decisions, there's a lot of inward thoughts as well. If I make this decision, how's it going to fall back on me? So if you're thinking deeper, the thicker the fog, the more we bog down and hesitation creeps in. So the more, uncertainty there is, the more uncertain we are about making decisions. Now, here's the crazy thing. Some people think when people aren't responding that they just don't care. How many of you think that sometimes? It's just like they don't care. It's not important to them. It's only important to me. Put a 1 in the chat if you think that. And I think it's pretty, a lot of us have thought it. Hopefully yeah, okay, cool, Tracy. Nice. Okay. All right. Sometimes that's just really not it. It's actually because we understand how much is at stake. We see things, we see things a little bit deeper. We're at a different, we have a different view of what's going on in the project. And when that happens, we see what's at stake. Maybe it's in our skill set and our capabilities. Maybe not, right? Maybe we don't know. And that's what's scaring us. So how many of you here have ever, made a decision because you fear, or didn't make a decision because you fear you would lose your job? Because you'd lose your job. Put a 1 in the chat. You didn't make it because you fear you're going to lose your job. 1, 2. How many of you actually lost your job because of one decision? Has anybody? Let's see, Missy. Missy, have you lost your job because of one decision?
Yep, unfortunately.
Really? Do you mind sharing what that was? Is that okay?
Um,
You can say no.
yeah, I signed an NDA, so I can't.
Perfect. A lot of the times that's, a lot of the cases is that we really don't, it's usually a series of decisions that we've made that led up to that, but usually one decision won't do that, in most cases that I've seen. And so that limiting belief in the back of our mind is something that stalls us a lot, that people have self-doubt that I'm not good enough. And so even the best leaders, I'm talking the top of the top, struggle with high stake choices, because what looks like one decision is rarely one decision. No matter where you're at, whether the executive level or the floor, everyone, no decision ever really stands alone. It just doesn't. Everyone ripples through a system, right? Downstream, it shapes your execution. Think about that. When we make a decision, somebody's got to do the doing. Laterally, it really impacts our peers and our partners. And upstream, it really reaches the executives and the sponsors. So at all levels of the organization, one decision has a ripple effect. And that's what I call the pressure cooker. That's the pressure cooker that we all operate in day out. And it really creates the conditions for indecision. Now, there are really 4 forces of indecision and the environmental pressures. And this is that bottom piece, right? Think about the environments down there. Everything that sits above that is creating pressure on top of it that shapes every decision that we make, right? And I want you all to remember, everybody who's taking notes, and I hope you're taking notes, because what you write, you invite. Write this down when it comes to the 4 forces. Each one can exist on its own. It can exist on its own. But when 2 or more collide, the procrastination and the uncertainty, that pressure grows exponentially. So as we go through this and you see it, just remember, if you can have one that lives on their own, but a lot of them, when they come together and they collide, it creates massive amount of pressure. So our role is to understand which force is the strongest in the moment that allows you to lead the decision instead of getting pulled by it. How do we lead and make decisions, take appropriate action, instead of getting pulled around and waiting around for people to make the decisions? All right. So before you can lead and really make decisions and influence your stakeholders, you have to understand the environment that you're operating in. See, all right, that's at the base. You just got to understand it, because how you communicate, how much detail you provide, and how you frame information all really depends on their environment around the decision. Okay, there's 4 common types of environment. Ready, everybody? Here we go. Number 1, complexity. Now, in a complex environment, everything connects. In defense, think about this. In the defense, every choice affects multiple teams, processes, outcomes, the nation, the people who are not even involved in the defense that we're doing the project for to serve. A small change can trigger a ripple effect that reaches far beyond what you intended. So when the environment is complex and you ask someone to make a decision, they might freeze. They might hesitate, because all of those things upstream are at stake. All right. So next, uncertainty. Decisions made without full information. Think about this. Uncertainty is different from complexity, because complexity is how you manage things, how they connect. You got to understand the inner working, right? Uncertainty is about not knowing what will happen next. Not knowing what will happen next. So in uncertain environments, silence often means self-protection. People are they're not rejecting you, they're avoiding the risk. Remember this. They're avoiding risk. So if you send something out, the boomerang, it doesn't come back, is because somebody might be avoiding risk because they value their number 1 need is certainty. All right, that happens to the best of us. All right, third fourth, I could try to speak, force, pressure-driven environments. Now, pressure is a different kind of environment. It comes from above, below, inside. I always tell people, be the unbreakable egg, right? We have so much pressure around us that we don't break, we don't crack. My friend used to say, be the unbreakable pistachio. I don't know if you guys realize how strong pistachios are. They're pretty strong. He used to say that to me a lot. But under pressure, your focus really narrows. We either have to move fast like Jerry, make a decision, get it done, or some people don't move at all and they crack. So you have to understand pressure-driven environments. Now, remember, I said all of these can be independent, but if they start stacking up, you have a problem. So the last one, competing agendas. Competing agendas. How many of you here constantly are fighting for resources? Put a 1 in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you're constantly fighting on resources. Yep, Tracy, Missy. Yep, that's the thing. You know, you're right here. Your request is just firefighting. You're just fighting for attention. You know, people, you know, they're not delaying because they don't really care, but they're trying to choose where to spend limited energy, limited resources. So our job as project managers are to be resourceful with the resources we have, right? We got to be resourceful with the resources we have. We always say this in our training. You don't go to war with the team you wish you had. You go to war with the team you got. And we have to understand that this is what we've got and how do we maximize that? And so people are making decisions because they're trying to figure out how to move those chess pieces. They're constantly trying to figure that out. And sometimes they don't know how, so they don't do anything. That's a decision. All right. So now when these stack, just think about this. When these stack, your environments, these environmental states, they don't just happen in isolation. A lot of them have every environment kind of has a little bit of these in them, you know? So when things are complex, uncertainty arises, you add pressure, and decision makers might feel that weight. And what happens? You layer that competition in there, and now what's happening? Who gets attention? Who gets budget? Who gets bandwidth? People are going to have a hard time making decisions. Does everybody see it? You see this in the environment? Every one of these can happen in isolation or they can happen together. And if they stack, we got a problem. People are chaotic. All right. So really the point here is, you know, these forces move in different combinations, and your job is to recognize which one is primary within your organization. Because once you do, you can adapt how you communicate and create better connections and communication. All right. So which one of these show up most for you? Put in the chat, which one of these show up most for you in your organization right now? Which one of these show up most for you in the organization? Competing agendas, uncertainty, complexity, Liz. Nice. Very good. Agendas. Does anybody have some that's just stack up? Is anybody in a pressure cooker where they're all there? And it's okay if we face them all. Yes, Tracy, competing agendas and uncertainty. Cool. Very cool. You know, and that's your emotional climate. I want you all to realize that. That's the emotional climate of your environment. Very important. All right, so we're going to go to the next one really quick. Lost a little time with my mic issue. I'm moving. We're grooving. Okay. So now we have our decision traps. You know, these are the 4 forces that stack that don't just challenge our plans, right? They expose our patterns, our behavior. So just think about that. Now we went to our habits. We're going to jump into our habits, everybody, and the skills that we need. And then we're going to look at our beliefs behind why we do what we do. So these decision traps really make up that middle layer there. It's so important. This is when your instinct takes over. You fall to the lowest level of what you believe. In times of crisis, and I want you to write this down, crisis reveals character. Crisis reveals character. In the moments of pressure, we don't rise to our goals. We fall to our training and our habits. Crisis reveals character. So now we're in a pressure cooker. We have to make a decision, and we're going to fall to our training, to our skills of what we can handle and our values in action. See how that works? Environment. This is where we live. Can't change the environment. We don't start there. We have to start with us internally, and we start working our way. We have to actually start at the top, and you're gonna see that in a bit. All right. So those habits create what we call the decision traps, and these are the predictable behaviors that slow execution. It just stops it. It drains your energy. Has anybody ever been drained from people not making decisions, from not taking action? Like literally, like you're like, why are we not moving? That's right, Liz. I see it. I think Jerry, I think I got a head bob there too. He's like, yep. All right. So the very first one, everybody, how many of you seen that? We've all been there. Analysis paralysis. You know, we keep running the numbers. We're asking for one more report. We're scheduling one more meeting. You know, in our mind, it seems like progress, but that's just motion. That's all it is. Sometimes it's not momentum. We're lost in it. It's like we got to get through the data. All right. The next piece we have, short-term bias. Right. This is This one shows up when you're under a lot of pressure. We might look for a choice that gives us relief right now. That's critical. I mean, I know I'm there. Like sometimes I've been in the pressure cooker, and the very first thing I'm looking for is like, I want to know the highest value, lowest effort thing that gives us, that relieves that pressure right away, which is smart, but sometimes it's not always the right thing to do. Sometimes you got to eat the biggest frog. You got to find the biggest thing with the highest impact that might take a little bit more, because that pressure valve isn't going to get you there. It might be in the noise. So we got to calm that immediate noise, but we sacrifice long-term results. So we got to be conscious of that. Next, we have emotional override. Now, this is where we kind of get into the fear. Ego shows up. Ego is not my amigo. Or urgency to just take control. I have to own this. I need to do this. This is one of the number one things. Everybody, who here is taking their PMP? Anybody? Maybe in the PMP? You all are? Okay, I've got a couple of you. Cool. Remember, one of the number one things about the PMP is that you want to respond, not react. You want to anticipate and prevent. So when you're going through all of your questions and you're working through that, you want to make sure that you're not in reaction mode all the time, that you want to be able to respond. And what happens is when our emotional override takes place, if we're not ready for it, we don't have the right level of emotional intelligence, which is a main topic in the PMP, what happens is we start reacting to our environment, which means we don't have enough risk in place for it. We haven't thought through it in detail enough. And we don't have enough emotional intelligence as a leader, that we need to work on that a little bit to make sure that we respond appropriately. So sometimes we end up double down on a bad call because it feels safe. It just feels safe. We need to lean into conflict. We need to lean into uncomfort a little bit, but we have to know how to regulate and manage ourselves to do that. So this one is where the logic goes out the door and in walks the emotions. But if we're really self-aware and we have self-regulation, we can manage those those emotions and tie them back to logic. That's what's important. And the cost of these three traps, everybody, you ready? Lost time, lost trust, credibility. Again, I keep going back to that. Every time something like this happens, we're losing time, we're losing trust, we're losing credibility. Because over time, people will think, oh, well, they don't make a decision. They never get back to me on time. How many people right now do you have in your network where it's like they never get back to you? And you're just like, well, oh, don't give it to them. They're never going to get back to us. They start losing that credibility. They start losing that trust, and you're losing time, the most precious resource that you'll never get back. I mean, project management is so important. It's a time game. Everything we're doing is now, now, now. The world isn't slowing down. It's only speeding up. And our ability to make decisions in the moment, in the heat of the fire, is important. And we have to be able to understand the traps that stop us first. Because if we don't possess it, do you remember? You can't give it. So once you understand this about yourself, what are the things holding you back from making appropriate decisions? You can then start seeing it in others appropriately. Then you can start communicating to them in a way that's going to get a better result. That's the trick here. That's everything you want to do. Is you want to be able to do the work, get the reps in, understand who you are, how you respond, environment you're in, even if it's multiple, right? We talked about the 4. And then how do I respond appropriately? And once you understand that, then you can start looking at other people and you can start coaching and leading them. That's what we're here to do, is lead the leaders. Everybody leads, manage, and follow. That's our goal. All right. I'm going to pause there. Whew, a lot of words. All right. So let's see. Rebecca, what's your number one takeaway right now? What was your number one takeaway?
The big one that you keep coming back to is if you don't possess it, you can't give it. So I think that's top of my list at the moment.
Does that resonate a little bit with you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's important. It's important for us to remember that if the level of emotional intelligence that we have in ourselves allows us to see it in others. It's so important. Emotional intelligence is kind of a buzzword right now in the industry, but man, it's so incredibly important. It's the number one thing that I wish that somebody would have worked with me on years ago. I did the blunt force, run around figuring it out. Action person. And sometimes, those decisions we're making, they cause chaos, right? But once you really understand yourself, you can then really understand others. And that's where empathy comes into place. And real empathy, not the kind that's we see on LinkedIn, like real empathy. Like, how do we truly understand and appreciate somebody's world, their needs, their wants, their desires, their emotions? Once you understand that, everything changes in your project management career. You will move up the ladder and you will build high-performing teams. It's the game. That's the game we're playing. That's really the game. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Rebecca. All right, cool. Let's party. 4 forces of indecision. Here we go. What we're going to do, this is your decision-making styles, everybody. So the one big thing I want us to do here is we got 20 minutes. I want to make sure that we don't run out of time because I really want us to think about this. But really, how you decide really shapes how you lead. You know, so now that, you know, you've seen the forces, you've seen the traps that slow us down, the next question becomes why. This is your identity level, everybody. Why do some of us overthink while others push too fast? Why do some of us chase the consensus while others charge ahead, right? Like, why do we do that? And it all comes down to how we make decisions. How do we identify, and then what do we believe about that? This is that top layer. So you, again, you've got your environment down here. Then you've got your habits. You've got your skills. Then you've got your beliefs. I believe that I do this because of this. And everybody wants to find their limiting beliefs. Write this down. Anytime something comes in your head that says, I can't do that, insert the word because right there. And then whatever you say after that, that's a limiting belief or an empowering belief. So if you really want to know what slows you down or why these things in your mind are telling you not to do these things, say it out loud, put the word because in there. And after that, that's where the magic's at. Now you know something, you know the beliefs that are driving your decisions. All right. So that's a pretty big distinction. And it's a really easy way to find out what we believe about things, situational, global beliefs. It's pretty powerful. All right, so when we really understand our style, we can really see exactly where our confidence builds and where it breaks, everybody. That's important. It's important. Now, there's 4 primary ones. I'm going to go through them really quick. And everybody, I know this one. This is my favorite. Boom. Analyzer, data-driven, methodical, decision-making. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of information here because you on your PMP journey, I'm going to tie this back to some good PMI-ism stuff here just so you can have it because it's really important. Okay. So when you're an analyzer, you're data driven, you're thinking, you know, you want structure, you want proof, you got to make grounded decisions based on what? Evidence, trust but verify, right, Missy? Trust but verify. Now, when you're under stress, uncertainty feels like a risk. Uncertainty feels like a risk. And then you gather more data, which slows you down. I keep going for data, got to have the data. So you get stuck in the uncertainty, waiting for perfection. Procrastination creeps in, right? Perfect information before you start moving. And then you run into a conflict style. So, you know, on your PMP journey, you're going to go deep into conflict styles and you're going to run into this a lot in the test. So you got to know your decision-making style and you got to know your conflict style. And you got to know in this style right here, a lot of them, they end up avoiding, waiting for clarity. So they'll avoid you. So has anybody here been, you know, working with somebody who has to do an analysis for you and you keep asking them, they'll say, I'll have it to you by Thursday. Thursday comes along and they ghost you. They don't show up. And you're like, what's happening? Has that happened to anybody? Spent my whole career there, right? The thing is, they most likely need more data. So we got to understand what their decision-making style is. And then we start working at how do we appropriately give them the data that they kind of need, they might need, and then you can create your KPIs and stuff around their decision-making style so that they don't ghost you and you get a result, right? And you're going to see that. So the fix there is really, you know, how do you teach them to decide even when the data is incomplete? How do you define what good, better, and best is for them and get them to buy off on it? If you want commitment, you got to get buy-in. That's another PMI, a PMP, and it's just good. It's good leadership. If you want commitment, you got to get buy-in. Okay, so analyze this first one. Next, the driver. Jerry, is this you? Driver, get it done. I bet you Jerry's like, yep. You're making fast, decisive, strategic decisions, right? You focus on results and outcomes. Now, under stress, you might have a loss of control, might feel a little dangerous, so you got to move fast. You talk shorter, you listen less. We have to move here. Somebody's got to make a decision. I'm going to step up and make the decision, right? So Your conflict style might be a little bit of competing. So somebody who's more of a driver type, they might compete a little bit. They might push when they believe something's right because they got to get moving. Right, wrong, or indifferent, we got to move. So that's your conflict style. So remember that. And then really, how we really fix that is we got to balance urgency with precision and collaboration. However, get in a room. The more complex a decision, the richer the medium. That's another communication piece and for the PMP. The richer the medium, meaning face to face. This works face to face. Cool. All right, the next one, performer. The performer. All right, now these are your creatives. These are your visionaries. I get stuck between driver and performer. This is like big ideas. As a project manager, we have to be the visionary. We have to, right? We have to be able to cast a vision. If I can cast an appropriate vision to each one of my team members, I can tie it back to their values of who they're going to become and who they're going to become versus the achievement even, right? Like, who are you going to become on this journey if we do these things? How can I help you grow and coach you one-on-one? That's kind of the performer, the visionary, because then I'm going to help minimize procrastination, create motivation. I'm going to tie it back. So as they're taking action, they become self-charging because they love what they're doing, who they do it for, why they do it. It's powerful. It's an art. It's an art. But there's also a problem with it. Sometimes we get stuck in complexity. We start thinking through all the different possibilities in like, you know, la la land, woo woo land versus like diving in and saying, what's the data say? We get into all like, what are all the different scenarios? Let's walk through all of it. It's like, we ain't got time for that. Drivers show up and says, time to move. Analyzers like, I just got to have data. You're talking too fluffy for me right now. Sorry about that. You know, so the conflict style might be more collaborating, right? Which is good. Collaborating is good. That seeks harmony. And that's really what PMI wants too. They want a win-win. You want a win-win, right? So we got to get people in there to collaborate. How do we collaborate and get a win-win? So it's a pretty good conflict style. But it's not always the style that's appropriate for every need. Sometimes you got to be a decision maker, got to get it done, even if people don't like it. This happens. All right. Last one here for everybody. Drum roll. Helper. The helper. These are your relationship builders. These are the ones that lead with empathy, and they're about unity. They create trust and loyalty. And, you know, really under stress, they fear disappointment. They fear of disappointing other people, so they hesitate. They just want to do whatever they can to help out. And they get stuck in those competing agendas, right? They try to please everyone all the time, which ends up delaying action. So their conflict style, everybody, is accommodating. Accommodating. So what I want you all to do right now, I want you all to put in the chat, which one of these styles sounds most like you? Which one sounds like you? Analyzer, Travis. Let's see who we got in there. We got analyzers. Very cool, very cool, very cool. Where'd my chat go? Helper. Depends on the day. I like that. So how many of you flex? Do we have people here who flex? Put a 1 in the chat if you flex. If you're a situational decision maker. One. Travis is like, Misty, flex. Driver, I love data, but need to move most times. Good, Liz. That's very cool. Flex. Very cool. This is great. That's super important. So another thing for the PMP, everybody remember, situational leadership. We have to be able to be the leader our team needs in the moment, not the one we wish we had. I know Simon Sinek just got mad at me. It's okay, Simon. We have to be able to put on the right hat at the right time to make the appropriate decision. Sometimes we got to analyze. Sometimes we got to drive and get it done. Sometimes we got to cast that vision. And other times we just got to step back and help. And I call that lead, manage, and follow. We are all leaders. We are all managers, and we all have to follow. And we got to wear different hats at each time. So situational leadership is a very big concept for everybody on their PMP journey to really dive into. And honestly, it's helped me transform businesses and transform teams into being some of the highest performing teams to deliver on some of our most mission critical projects. So it's definitely worth your time to work on those aspects. Okay, the last bit we're going to do here, because I know we're running out of time. but I'm going to give you the last little piece here. And we had a little technical delay, but that's okay. Is I want you to just understand, and I always go back to, if you don't possess it, you can't give it. Right? There it is again. And here's the thing. How we make decisions by our at the identity level trickles down, right? It really trickles down. And so this is the skill level, everybody. So I've talked a lot about the environment level. I've talked about your behaviors, your values in action. And then I've mentioned capabilities and skills, but I went straight to beliefs. I talked about identity and your purpose. Now, one thing I want to debunk on purpose is this. We all can have our big grandiose purpose in the world. That's cool. A lot of people are like trying to find their time spending their one why, and that takes a lot of work. Most of us figured out by throughout our whole life. We have multiple purposes each day that we have to live. So your purpose as a parent, as an aunt, as an uncle, as a brother, as a sister, as a mom, as a dad, are all different than you in your career, in your job, in your life. You have different purposes and different ways that you show up. So when you're communicating, however that is, whether you're communicating to people here, you're communicating to people there, the purpose really matters on how you identify, who am I? I believe this, so yet I then have the skills to do this, and now my actions and behaviors do this to satisfy whatever the environment's needs are. Does everybody see that? Top-down approach. You cannot fix the environment first. You have to start at the top. So whenever you have a problem, a lot of us focus on behavior and environment. And if you ever noticed, everybody goes, it's a behavior problem, environment, and they keep just kind of fix that, but it doesn't help. It's because you don't know how you identify. Is that attached to a purpose? What's the belief behind it? If you don't change the belief, you don't change the identity, you're not going to have a different behavior in everything that you do. And here are the 4 lenses, the work, the skills and abilities a lot of us got to have. First, for your identity, I am this, write that down. I am blank, and your purpose. And when you do that, you're going to then know who you are. And you then go, do my beliefs and my values align with that? Let's go through that right now. That's the skills you got to do, right? And when we go through value alignment, this is where it gets really deep. And this is where it takes some work, and you got to get some reps. You got to flex on it. This answers the question, does this decision honor what matters most? Does this decision honor what matters most? So whenever people are asking you decisions that are critical in the world, you have to just ask that one question. Does this align with my values? And sometimes when it doesn't, you know what happens? You won't do anything. How many of you here, just somebody asked you a question to make a decision, and you just kind of stalled, but you don't know why? Put a 1 in the chat if you've done that. You're like, I don't know, frozen. A lot of times it goes back to our values. They're tugging on our values, and we don't know why they're doing it. Like, why are you tugging on my values? Okay, next, strategic impact. Whenever we start looking about decisions, it's like, well, this is our second filter. Does this actually move our mission forward? Think about our purpose, everything you're doing. So now you got your values, you know what your values are, so you can make decisions, values in action. This is going to guide your behaviors. And then you're thinking, well, hey, what's the strategic impact here if I make this decision? Does this move my mission forward in a meaningful way? If we're not focused on the outcomes, how can we hit the target? Right? Executives want to know that. Whenever you're talking to executives, they want to know how this decision connects to the results that matter. Okay, everybody? Just remember that. And you do too. So when you're making decisions, hey, how does this actually impact me in a positive way to move the world forward, or my purpose forward, or my mission, whatever that is? That's why the mission is important. All right, next, legacy. How will this decision be remembered? Think about that. This is so critical. A lot of us go, if I make this decision, what are people going to think about me later if I'm wrong? A lot of us tie it back to failure, not credible. So you got to remember that there's lots of pressures around it. Our short-term bias shows up. All right. And then the last one, risk versus reward. Risk versus reward. Is the potential pain worth the potential downside? Every decision has this moment. If we make this decision, if the risk is undefined, fear fills in the gap. And that fear is what drives avoidance and silence in everybody. All right. So just to recap this really quick. Remember, at the top level, you have these logical levels of change, logical levels of communication. Do not fight your environment. Figure out your purpose of why you're doing what you're doing. You do this with your executives. You do this with yourself. You do this with everybody. And then you go down and say, what kind of environment do I actually live in? Because once you understand the system, we then can see how our values and action work there, and those traps are going to stop us. And that's that midsection, the beliefs. And from there, we can say, well, how do I identify what's holding me back from communicating appropriately in this environment to get massive results? And then once you understand that internally through these filters, you can then look at everybody else and you can start working through them to make sure that you then decide better or make better decisions with them by understanding them at the deepest level. That's the goal here. So ladies and gentlemen, we did it. We made it there. This is the end of the presentation. Remember, if you don't possess it, you can't give it. And that was really quick. We can unpack this for hours and we do workshops on this stuff. But this is so important that just make sure you start a couple of these nuggets of gold that you've gleaned from here, put them into action. Now, the last thing I'd like you to do, if you can, hit this QR code for me. Go in there and you got to say, was he engaging? Did his mic work? You know, all those things. Answer a few questions for me and then download all these slides, everybody. And then keep these in your back pocket and start working through these daily, weekly, put them into your action growth plan on how you can view the world and then how you can make better decisions. And I guarantee you in 6 months from now, you'll be doing a lot of things differently and you'll be making better decisions that are in line with who you need to be and hitting those goals consistently. All right, everyone? All right, thank you. I'm Jeremiah Hammon, Project Revolution. Hit me up on LinkedIn, and I'm honored to serve you all. Thank you all for being patient with the sound. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Jeremiah, so much. This was wonderful. Yes, I could have listened to you for another 2 hours. Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Does anyone have any questions for Jeremiah or anyone else?
Nope, it was good.
Awesome.
I have a question. Do you have any advice for folks who are like waiting for decisions and how to kind of compartmentalize like all the emotions that go into having to wait so long for folks to make like super big decisions? Like restructurings, for example, or like things like that you're trying to navigate day-to-day work, but you're also waiting for folks up top, the decision makers, the big decision makers to come down with those decisions.
Well, how do these decisions affect you first? How does that decision affect you from a career life standpoint, moving your projects forward? Are they big enough to affect you, or is it just kind of annoying that they're not making them?
Oh, they're going to affect me.
Like, and do you mind telling me in what way, just a little bit, if you don't mind?
Well, like the projects that we have to manage and monitor, and then job security. I think in probably 100 ways that it would take an hour for me to walk through as well.
Gotcha. So Tracy, are these decisions? Do you know these decision makers personally?
Oh yes.
And I ask this because I'm a big fan of what we call leaning into conflict. Do you go to them and say, I've sent this to you. I'd like to know the outcome and here's how it affects me. And when will I get a decision?
No, not yet. But I could do that. Yes.
And then that's one thing that's gonna calm your mind, because what happens is when they're not making decisions, the first thing that we do is we get into what we call catastrophizing. And I'm not going to go too far into psychology, but we start making up a story. And when we make up that story, we have to do something, and we have to ask ourselves, is this story true? What factual evidence do we have? And in order for you to get that evidence, if you don't have anything that says it is true, factual, I know, trust but verify, you got to go to the people and get there and get information from them so you can make a decision, because a decision for you might be that this job is now going to create uncertainty in my family, in my life, and it's going to hurt my purpose and my mission, and I need to start looking elsewhere for employment or whatever it may be. But you got to make sure that the story you're saying in your head is true, especially if there's a gap in what they're saying. And the only way you do that is to legitimately go to them, or you're going to keep making that story up. Got to find evidence.
Thank you. That's
Does
good advice. It was super helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
And then Jeremiah, we had a question. Are you able to post that link in the chat as well as that QR code?
Yes, give me 1 second and I'll do that.
I looked to see if I could copy it, but it's long.
Second here. What I'll do is, will it let me, and I'll see if it'll let me, will it let me put it in the chat, the actual, let me see, just one more second. Macs are fun. But yeah, if anybody has any question, you can also reach out on me LinkedIn. Let me just drop that in there. Let's see if I got it right here for you. Okay, let me see right now if I can put this in the chat. Does it allow me to put it in the chat? It might. Let me see. Zoom does.
It should.
Oh. Yay.
Oh yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate you all. Thank you for sticking with us. I know there's lots of information there, but again, just work through it top down. Just keep working through this and you'll get massive results. I promise you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I think I'm out of here. You all can continue. Thank you again for having me. It was an honor.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
So we can
Okay.
continue. Thank you again, everyone, for joining. If anyone wants to stay, we have what's called a real world SME, which is, if anyone, similar to Tracy's question, if you have a real problem at your job, in your life, that you want to brainstorm, network with other colleagues, this is your chance. Just anything you might be going through that that maybe your family, your friends are like, I don't know what to tell you. You can ask away, or if no one has anything, we can go ahead and end, but I'll just give you a moment.
I'm gonna make a comment. So it's not so much a question or a real world, but I want to encourage all of you, if you're familiar or unfamiliar with the philosophy that Jeremiah was speaking to, as far as being a project visionary, right, and leading your teams, the profession with AI, right, and all of the things that are changing the career, leading people's is still going to be essential, right? Empathy and power skills with how you engage and really communicate and impact people on not just, to the business value impact, but the emotional level, right? And how you complete and get to project success, so that you have those bonds built with teams within your organization, so that the next time they have to work with your PMO or with you directly, they're forging with you and remembering all of the experiences and how you guided them to that success level. So I highly encourage all of you, if you're unfamiliar with that approach, to get familiar with it in all of the different ways that are out there, because that is very much the direction that modern project management and project leadership is pointing to. So I'll get off my soapbox. That presentation really sunk in with me pretty heavily, because for a long time, that was kind of a foreign concept. It was just waterfall, right? Check tasks and statuses, right? And triple constraints and all that. And the power skills and working with people kind of got lost in the shuffle. So really good presentation. I was really happy with that.
Yeah. Ditto.
I would like to see more of him. I can see him doing our, I don't know. I'd like to see him again in person where we have more time.
Yeah, I was actually going to
His
talk to you
energy
guys
was
about
great.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would really love that, because he has a lot of valuable information we can use. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Missy, I'm curious, do we have anybody who's attended a board meet, not a board meeting, one of our meetings for the first time on the call today? Is there
We
anyone who's
do.
first? We do.
All of,
Thanks.
and Masa, is this your first as well?
Yeah, and I stumbled on this. So I got my PMP just this year. And when I first got
Congratulations.
membership, thank you. Yeah. But when I first, that was hell. It was just horrible studying for it, but I passed. But anyway, but when I first got my membership, I somehow got connected to this chapter, even though this is like I will like live north of Chicago, way by the Wisconsin border. So I think it was just somehow got mixed up accidentally. But anyways, I stumbled on this presentation and I thought it was worthwhile attending, and I don't regret it. It was well done. So yeah,
So
I don't
glad you
believe I
joined
will
us.
be joining you on a regular basis, but I'm glad I decided to join today.
We're glad you're here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So I think Philip and Liz, I think I saw you both raise your hand on my screen. Yep. Well, welcome. We're happy.
Welcome. Thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And I'd like to give a little plug for our March event. Masa, you may not be able to join us, but it will be in person at Bethel University. And our very own Rebecca will be presenting on requirements gathering, which I know for me is a really big one in my organization. It is often a problem of who owns that. And so I'm very anxious to learn more on how I can get better at that.
Yeah, I think it'll be a fun time. Thank
And
you.
that'll be, it's always the second Tuesday of the month. So that'll be Tuesday, March. I should have that in front of me.
March 10th.
March 10th. Thank you. Because it's the exact same as February. Yes.
Do we, I have a question regarding the mentoring program. Do we do it virtually, like on Teams? If
the mentor program?
If a person wasn't able to meet in person, is that something we'll do on Teams?
Yeah.
Rebecca, do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're interested, there are both a mentee and a mentor application on the website. And one of the questions through there does ask how you'd like to meet. So people that want to meet in person, we're going to try to match them together. And so for that reason, we do ask like kind of generally where you live so that we're not matching people too far away across our geographic area. But if you're more interested in doing it remotely or hybrid, we can match people that are interested in just doing it remote as well.
Thank you.
I think the majority of the people who participated last year met remotely, at least most of the time. I know when I did the mentor program, it was during COVID. Everybody met remotely. But I have also heard of other people who have been involved who always met like at a restaurant and just had dinner together once a month. So it's just personal preference.
Okay, thank you.
This was a valuable talk to attend, and I'm glad this is my first one. So glad I was finally able to have the opportunity to do that. I have a daughter who's just turned 3, so it's just it's a challenge to finally make the time to do this, but I'm glad I did.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so I do have to go, but thank you everybody.
Thanks
for joining.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Well, and if no one has anything else, I guess we can just call it a night.
Okay.
So thank you all.
Thank you.
Hope to
Everybody enjoy the rest of
Thank
your
you
week.
for having me.
Okay.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Please join us again. Hope to see you again.
Yeah.